Continuing with the ongoing research on consciousness, in today's video I want to talk about near-death experiences research. Recently, in April 12th, we had what says in the article as the first peer-reviewed study made on near-death experiences. They're trying to redefine the concept of near-death experiences. They're calling recalled death or close to death or recalled death experiences, something of that nature, just going with the idea that the process of death in a lot of cases is an ongoing thing that is starting to be researched, but they do call these strange experiences, these conscious experiences that happen after death with very unique themes and narratives. Is very important, and it starts solidifying the whole research on consciousness, which as I said, this article goes into it, and it talks about how this is the most objective research we have on that, and it goes into some of the conclusions that they have gathered, which are very interesting. And what I talk about it there a bit is about the implications, starting to solidify this as scientific data and research, and then looking into the implications with the aid of philosophy and ancient philosophies and so on and so forth, some of the other branches of study like psychedelics and out-of-body experiences, etc. This can lead us to change our whole understanding of who we are as human beings. Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'll try to upload at least one video per week as I continue with the outline. Alright, so I found this article in different sites. I'm going to be covering here on Science Daily because I already outlined some of the most important things that I thought were worth mentioning. But this article can be found straight on the source of the study. This academic research, as it says in the article, is the first peer-reviewed scientific academic research on near-death experiences from some partners. So you can just go to NYU Langone Health, can tell you a little bit of who they are. Langone Health, one of the nation's premier academic medical centers, NYU as well. So you can go through the actual page in the bottom, latest news. You can find these recalled experiences near death, more than hallucinations. Now they're trying to do something with the concept of near-death experiences. So they're calling it recalled experiences because as I'm going to go in the article, they want to point out something about near-death experiences that is sort of an interesting outlook on it. So you can go, it's the same article that I'm going to be covering, but there's even software that is just taking an article online and rewriting it and putting it in any blog. This is one of the reasons why I want to make my own articles. I started writing, but right now I don't have time. I want to pick it up at some point. So please, if you find any of this information useful, please like this video, subscribe the channel, as I'm trying to grow first on YouTube, and then I'm going to be moving into writing a little bit more. But in any case, going straight into the article, this is April 12th, 2022. This is very, very recent. Recalled experiences surrounding death. They're not calling them near-death experiences. They're calling it recalled experiences surrounding death. More than hallucinations. Global scientific team publishes consensus statement and new guidelines. As I said, April 12, 2022, the same month that I'm posting this most likely. NYU Langone Health, NYU Grossman School of Medicine. So this is unexplained lucid episodes involving heightened consciousness and awareness. This is during the process of death. This is right here, death. So a lot of people are saying, oh, near-death experiences are just hallucinations and so on and so forth. There's no real data on this. There's only anecdotal evidence, anecdotal reports and whatnot. There's actually a lot of scientists, a lot of people in the medical fields who are starting to take upon this and trying to find ways to turn scientific research into all of this. And today we have the data, we have the ways to do it, and this is huge what is happening right now in 2022. As I said, these whole studies and branches that are studying the whole phenomenon of what some people are just calling consciousness is just blowing up this year. So this is something amazing. Okay, so it says scientific advances in 20th and 21st centuries. It goes on that they are allowing us to start studying these. Episodes involve heightened consciousness and awareness during death. It says, yet scientifically ill-defined term near-death experiences. Okay, so a multidisciplinary team of national and international leaders led by Sam Parnia. I've mentioned Sam Parnia before in this channel. I just wanna make it very clear that this is resuscitation research at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. So Sam Parnia is director of critical care resuscitation research at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. So this is not a crazy guy who is talking about nonsense or anecdotal evidence. This is a PhD in the medical field. So this was published in the Annals of New York Academy of Sciences, the first ever peer-reviewed consensus statement for scientific study of recalled experiences surrounding death. They're not calling them near-death experiences. This is important. The researchers on the study represent many medical disciplines, including neurosciences, critical care, psychiatry, psychology, social sciences, and humanities. So it's a lot of people coming together from Harvard University, Baylor University, University of California, Riverside, University of Virginia, Virginia Commonwealth University, Medical College of Wisconsin, and the universities of Southampton and London. So there's a lot of academic research, medical research going into this. Now, this is happening. This has to do with death. This has to do, when you first start reading, oh, cool, research and science. This has to do with death and who we are as human beings. The results of this research, this comes in the mainstream, in Science Daily right now. As I said, there's a bunch of mainstream media blogs that are starting to report these things. But if you go into the anecdotal evidence, if you go to, Raymond Moody, there's a lot of literature starting from the 60s, the 70s. The earliest recorded was, I believe, it was Apostle James or even Plato. All these recalls of near-death experiences have been out there, and as I said, when you put all the data together, there's a very clear picture of what's going on. So what's important here is that it's making its way into the mainstream. So some of their conclusions that they gathered is that I was wondering about this myself, because I say there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, there's a lot of a lot of cases, a lot of people reporting this. How many people really? It's saying right here, due to advances in resuscitation, critical care medicine, many people have survived encounters with death or being near death. These people, who are estimated to comprise hundreds of millions of people around the world, based on previous population studies, consistently, this is an important word that I didn't outline, described recalled experiences surrounding death, which involve a unique set of mental recollections with universal themes. They went into the cosmos, they met an energy, they met beings, then something was happening to them, and it was a cognitive, it was a conscious experience that they managed to recall. And this is hundreds of millions of people. Now, later on it says here that it's not consistent with hallucination. I'm going to go into it. But the fact that hundreds of millions of people are having this very similar experience tells you that it's not a hallucination. What are the odds of people hallucinating the same thing with different backgrounds, with different ideas? And of course, when you go into the actual near-death experience, a lot of the themes, a lot of the things that happen, some people see Jesus, some people see Buddhas, we've all covered, but the final result, the core experience is basically the same. Okay, so Oh, it's right here after this one. These are not consistent with hallucinations, illusions, or psychedelic drug-induced experiences. Now, I have to make a parenthesis here because there are some relations with psychedelic drug-induced experiences, but they are certainly different. Now, one of the things in psychedelic drug-induced experiences, is that people who go through these experiences, they meet beings who tells them, who talk to them, and who help people arrive to the same conclusions that the beings who they meet through these universal themes, through these recollections in their experiences, tell them as well. It's a different experience, like a different frame. It seems that the near-death experience is something very special, is something very unique to each person. And the psychedelic drug-induced experience is people reaching a very specific place, a very specific realm where they meet entities. In both experiences, people are meeting these entities. I've spoken about these entities. It's one of my recent videos. I'm going to link it somewhere. This has been also confirmed in a study. I'm talking about studies. I'm not talking about anecdotal evidence. I do talk about anecdotal evidence when I'm going into the literature, into philosophy, but when I'm putting these videos on the playlist, ongoing research, I'm always linking to a study, to the literature, to something that is being out there into the mainstream media with background information. Okay, so according to several previously published studies, is that they follow a specific narrative arc. There's a narrative to this story: singular perception, separation from the body, with a heightened sense of consciousness and recognition of death. They know they are dead. They understand that they are taking a step ahead, but they are conscious. They know. They sort of know who they are, but they don't. In a lot of the experience, they say, oh, well, I was me, but I wasn't me. I was much more than me. I knew that body. I knew that body was there, and I used to be that body, but that's not who I am. That's something that, along those lines, they say they travel to a destination, either through a tunnel, or they're just suddenly there, or they kind of wake up in a meadow, or they go through the mountains, or they go through this, as I said, the tunnel, through space travel. Some people feel like wormholes and whatnot. A meaningful and purposeful review of life, the life review. I covered this in the past. I might make a new video about this, but I covered this in the past. I'm gonna link it below. It's the fact that this life review is happening to hundreds of millions of people. And it's in our ancient narratives. It's in the quote-unquote judgment. It's not a judgment, really. This is the title of my video. It's not a judgment. It's a live review. And now we have data and scientific evidence that this is happening to hundreds of millions of people. Then what's the meaning of that? Why are we reviewing our lives? It means that there is a purpose to it. That there is design behind our experience, both the experience of life and the experience of death. There's a purpose to it all. I've spoken about this before. I'm going to link it somewhere in the screen or below. All the links can be found below if I'm not allowed to link all of them in the screen. So, this is a meaningful and purposeful review of life. People gain a lot of insight. They come from the experience with as if they are reborn. Critical analysis of all actions, intentions, and thoughts towards others. A perception of being in a place that feels like home. Return back of life. So yeah, they are in this place where they meet beings. They say that they meet beings that they've known all throughout their life. They feel like home. There's a sense of, this research is not going into it because that would be pushing the envelope a little bit too much. But what people are saying is that they feel love. They feel love like they never felt before. This huge energy. They meet the light. They meet what some other people would define as divinity, and they are having all of these experiences. So now, another thing about these life experiences, this review of life, is that they experience things as others. They are not themselves. They are this energy that can be and feel what others are feeling through their own actions. The only way that this is possible is that we are not ourselves, we are not our bodies, and we have the ability in this heightened conscious state to be in the minds of others. Now, when we truly think about what the implications of this would be, that's where we start redefining the experience of life and what it is to be a human being. This is no longer anecdotal evidence. Comprise hundreds of millions of people. This is a scientific study. This is now data. These are the implications that we're talking about who we are as human beings. So, of course, after experience, people have positive long-term psychological transformation and growth. Of course, going through this, it changes people. It's like they are reborn. Studies showing the emergence of gamma activity. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is their conclusions from this study. These are things that happen in most of the cases. As I said, they managed to measure this person's brain waves when he was going through death. They didn't just connect everything when he was dying. He was already going through an EEG when he had an episode that caused the death of this individual, and I don't know if they have some others, but they're showing this gamma activity and electrical spikes. The brain goes boom, and this happens also in the psychedelic state during DMT and some others. The brain starts connecting in ways that it doesn't usually connect. Does this mean that this is just the brain creating the hallucination? Not really. This means that there's something happening in the brain at the time of death. The brain is creating these connections. The brain is the biggest tool that has ever existed. There are stories of near-death experiences where it happened where people were dead for 3 days. And this leads into the OR-CoR theory from Penrose and Hameroff, which I will cover in the future. They say there are microtubules in your brain, and they have quantum information. At the time of that, these are released into the larger quantum field. Everything is quantum. There are particles everywhere. There's energy everywhere. So these packets of information that are in your brain, they are released at the time of death. So probably this is what's happening during this gamma activity period. There's also the delta activity period in some other states like sleep and so on and so forth. They're different brain waves. It's all about vibration, as many say. So during, as I said, these different brain waves are related to reports of experiencing lucidity and heightened consciousness in relation to that. Frightening or distressing experience in relation to that offer neither share the same themes nor the same narrative, transcendent qualities, ineffability, and positive transformative effects. Now, this is something very interesting because there are a lot of negative near-death experiences, and of course, when people are going through these experiences, they are going through shock. They are very scared about what's happening. And I read some of these stories, and these actually seem like hallucinations. Now, there are some that are very quite real, but I've spoken about all of these. I have a theory on negative NDEs and negative altered state of consciousness and experience. I'm going to link it somewhere along the screen if I can, or below, as I mentioned. But it seems that when people are going through these negative experiences, a lot of it is being managed by them. And it also seems that these negative experiences also have a purpose for the person who is experiencing it. Alright, so the way that this article ends is going into this idea that this is why I think they're trying to redefine the concept of near-death experience, near-death experiences. What Sam Parnia here is saying is that death is not something that just happens. Death is a process in most cases. For example, the cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR showed us that death is not an absolute state. Rather, it's a process that could potentially be reversed in some people even after it has started. So the idea of calling someone clinically dead when the brain shuts down, still the cells and still the body starts going into a process. Now, where is the actual dead? A lot of people, when they go into this quote-unquote clinical dead, is when they start to feel the experiences. They start going outside their body and seeing things and seeing the light, or traveling, and so on and so forth. In ancient philosophies, in Buddhism, in some of Tibetan Buddhism, some of ancient traditions, when the person dies, people stay around them for days, and there's a process of leading them and talking to them and so on and so forth. Now, this is what they are talking about. There's a process of it. It doesn't just happen, but it sometimes just happens. Someone who dies tragically, sometimes someone who dies in a car crash, or from a bullet or something of that nature, tragically. And a lot of the experiences, people say they simply popped out of their body. They were just out of nowhere, even before. And there's some other near-death experiences where people, right before the accident, they are having double consciousness. They are experiencing what they are experiencing, and they are outside their body looking at it. So this whole consciousness phenomenon is something to look into. It ties into some of the other experiences that have to do with UFO abduction and so on and so forth, where people simply pop out of their bodies and they're going to this full-fledged out-of-body experience or astral projection and so on and so forth. But this is not what this video is about. But I do have these videos in this channel if anybody's interested. So they're going with this idea that it's not near-death experience. It's a process related to that, but it's not near-death experience. Death is not an absolute state. It's not like you're dead and then you're not dead. It's a whole process, and this is allowing scientists to objectively study the physiological and mental events that occur in relation to that. So what Sam Parney is pushing is to make it more ethical and more viable for this study to continue. What happened physiologically? What happened to people when they are dead? The whole idea of EEG and just measuring brainwaves when people might die, it's a very, very complicated thing. Very, it has to do with ethics and so on and so forth. Palliative care and a moral aspect to it, and just comforting. The idea should be to comfort people when they are in this process, not to probe them or to put them into a machine or something like that. So, although systematic studies have not been able to absolutely prove the reality or meaning of patients' experiences and claims of awareness in relation to that, it has been impossible to disclaim them either. So, as I said, this is millions, hundreds of millions of people who are coming with the same story. There's not a systematic study that just kills people and have them have this experience and come back. You cannot do this. And so this is why we don't have like the scientific proof. But just going through what we have right now, and you tie it into the psychedelic studies and into the research on quantum physics, into the research of ancient philosophies, which is something that I'm doing in this channel, it's pretty obvious what's happening at large. It's pretty obvious what the truth is. We're not our bodies. There's something going on. There's a narrative going on. There's a purpose for everything, and there is, most importantly, design to the process of life and to the process of death. Having design to it means that perhaps, and most likely, also based on the anecdotal experiences and the messages that people are getting in UFO abductions, in near-death experiences, in psychedelic experiences, in out-of-body experiences, they're coming to the same conclusion. We are in the process of something. This is a project. Life is a project, it seems, either to learn something or to simply experience. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. A Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it'll help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.